Hello and welcome to the fifth webinar in the Power Tools series. I am Kinkini Banerjee, the Coalition's Relations Manager at USBC, and I'm so glad to have you join us for this session. This Power Tools series is organized as part of USBC's training, technical assistance, and capacity building support for the network of state, territorial, tribal, and community breastfeeding coalitions across the country. Access to these webinars is free and open to all interested breastfeeding coalition leaders, members, breastfeeding advocates, and to anyone involved in forming or leading a nonprofit organization in the breastfeeding field. The webinar announcements and emails are sent through the USBC's coalition announcement list, and if you're not already on our mailing list, you could go to our website at www.usbreastfeeding.org/signup. All our sessions are recorded and archived, so you will be able to access it. And please be sure to spread the information about this with your friends and colleagues so they will benefit from this as well. And that brings me to today's session, Grant Seeking Basics. I'm thrilled to have Kim Patton present this session today. Ms. Patton is responsible for creating, managing, and delivering training programs for the Foundation Center geared towards developing and expanding the leadership and capacity of nonprofit organizations, both domestically and abroad, in her capacity as the Manager of Capacity and Leadership Development at the Foundation Center. Prior to joining the center in 2007, Kim worked as a nonprofit director, fundraiser, and grant maker for over 20 years with organizations such as the Hawaii Public Television, the Council on Foundations, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Kim has a law degree from Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications from the University of Cincinnati. She will be helping us learn what are the best initial first steps. What do we need to have in place before seeking a grant? What are funders looking for? And sharing great resources with us on how to find them. And with that, I'm thrilled to turn it over to Kim.
I am so pleased to be with you all today. Thank you so much. My name is Kim Patton, as Kinkini said, and I work here in the Foundation Center in Washington, D.C. I just quickly want to tell you a little bit about who we are in case you don't know. Our mission is to strengthen the social sector by advancing knowledge about philanthropy in the U.S. and around the world. We accomplish our mission in a lot of different ways. We collect, organize, and communicate information on U.S. philanthropy. We're the leading authority on that globally. We also do a lot of research and provide educational training such as this one, both in person and via webinar. And we have a lot of resources in terms of finding funders. Many people come to us because of our database called Foundation Directory Online, where you can look up funders who are interested in funding your particular projects. And I will demo that for you a little later on. So today we're going to talk about what you need to have in place before you actually seek a grant, what you need to know about grant makers and how nonprofits are supported, and how you identify funding partners using the Foundation Center's resources. So we're going to start with how you build a credible nonprofit organization, because that's what funders are looking for when they're looking to fund nonprofits. A lot of people think that all you have to have is a worthwhile cause and an important need, but everybody has that, hopefully, that approach funders. So we're going to talk about what else you need that's going to make your organization not only need support, because everybody needs the money, right, but how can you prove that your organization is grant ready? That's often how we talk about it in this world, is making it your organization grant ready. So why do you merit philanthropic support? And in that way, you have to really make your case for support, and that's why we call it a case statement. So really, you're going to talk about your mission and values, your programs and services, your accomplishments, and your plans for the future. And we'll break each of those down individually so you can get a better idea of what we mean by that. So what you need to have in place, first and foremost, is a 501c3. That's just making sure that you're a legal nonprofit. Foundations are required to give to charitable organizations for charitable purposes. They're legally required to do that by the IRS because they too are charitable organizations, and so they have to prove that by filling out what's called a 990. Most nonprofit organizations have to do that. They definitely have to do that. All of them do. And for foundations, it's called the 990-PF. The PF just stands for Private Foundation. And they submit that every year to the IRS, just like we do as individuals and as nonprofit organizations, which list the organizations that they've given to and how much money they've given to those organizations. So with that in mind, we put all of that information into our database, and that's how you can search for foundations who are interested in supporting your cause or issue, and then you can also find out how much they've given to organizations like yours. Also, you need to be very clear about your mission and who you serve. So a lot of times that's how foundations connect to your organizations in terms of the ones that they want to give money to, is if you have something in common. So you have interests in common, you have constituents in common, you have your mission in common, your values and beliefs. So in doing your research, you want to connect organizations that care about what you do and who you serve. Next, they're going to be looking at your board of directors. So they want to see how an organization is sort of run and governed from the inside out. And one way they look at that is through your board, staff, and leadership. So they often ask for a list of your board members because they want to see who those people are and how connected they are to the communities that you serve. They're also going to be looking at the knowledge and expertise of your leadership, as we can see here. So we want to look at your leadership as well. So a lot of times in this world we say that people give to people, and that just means that they give to the people that you're serving. They also give to your leaders based on their knowledge and expertise in a particular subject matter. So you definitely want to show a funder that you have a great deal of knowledge and understanding about your particular subject area. They're also going to be looking at your track record and history of success. So how many programs have you run successfully, and how can you prove that they have made an impact on the people that you are serving? How is what you're doing changing lives or adding to the lives of the people that you are serving? Enhancing is a good word for that. They're also going to look at what kind of demand is there for your programs and services. So they're looking at the quality and effectiveness of your programs and services, as well as how many people are utilizing them or interested in what you have to offer. Oftentimes I say in my classes that people say, who thinks this is a good idea besides you? And so that means your constituents, your board, your staff, your volunteers, your community partnerships and collaborations. Also, funders. They also want to see, do you have any funding coming in from sources other than foundations? So it could be from individuals, it could be from your seminars and conferences, it could be from your membership dues, but a grant is an investment, and they don't want to feel like they're the only ones that care about or are investing in your particular program or project. Which brings us to the last one, which is your organizational and financial infrastructure. So one of the things they're going to want to look at is how your organization is run and managed from the inside out. So a lot of times they will come out and do site visits and things like that to see, to meet the people who are going to be involved in your program, to see how your operations are run. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a big operation going on, but they just want to see that it's well managed and well run, because people are giving you money, so they want to see that you're not just working out of your house or your basement, right? They want to see that you're doing things out in the community in an effective way. So let's take a look at who supports nonprofit organizations, because a lot of people are often surprised by this statistic. So this is a chart that's put together by the Urban Institute's National Center of Charitable Statistics, and it shows here that most of the money that support nonprofits in the U.S. comes from fees for services from private sources. So that surprises a lot of people, because it's over 50, almost 50% of the money comes from that. And I know that many of you do a lot of conferences and teaching and seminars and things like that. So the fees that you're collecting from that is what we mean by fees for services. It's fees for services that you are providing. Also, a lot of you get membership dues. Sometimes that's really categorized under other income, as you see at 2.1%. But any way that you're able to raise money for yourselves, earned income is what we call it a lot of times as well. It just means that you are finding ways to earn income for yourself and not just relying on foundation grants or government grants or things like that. If we look at the rest of the slide, the private contributions make up 13%, and that includes individuals, corporations, and foundations. Then we have the public support, which are from government grants, and also fees for services and goods from the government. So one is a grant, just like foundations can give grants, so can governments give grants, but you can also get contract services from the government as well, so they pay you a fee for services that you are providing. So if you have the mentoring program for girls, for example, you may be able to get some money from the Department of Education to support your services in terms of a contract. Investment income just means endowment, in case you have an endowment or something like that. You're getting money from the interest off of those endowments. So you really just want to make sure that when, and this is looking at the private contributions by source, so this is just breaking down. I'm just going to go back quickly again at private contributions at 13.3%. It looks like this. So you see that most of that money is coming from individuals and not really corporations and foundations, which also surprises people. But that's mostly because, for one, there are way more people in the world than there are corporations and foundations put together. And then two, the fees for goods and services from private sources are mostly coming from individuals who support your conferences or come to your classes or are members of your organization. Or if you're selling goods, some people sell goods like Girl Scout cookies. Individuals are the people who are going to be buying those Girl Scout cookies. So also bequests at 7%. If you add that to it, that would bring that percentage up quite a bit to 80%. Bequests are just planned gifts, which means that a very loyal individual may leave some money in their will to you, or you might be a part of their trust and estate planning. So the thing about individuals is they tend to be more loyal over time and more dependable, because that's more of a personal relationship between you and them, and it's based on values and beliefs that don't typically change like foundations can. So foundations can kind of change their focus and change their direction in that way. Individuals tend to give more from the heart and to organizations that they can connect with on a personal level. So that's good when you're really helping people with a personal service like you all are doing. You can really connect to individuals on that level, so that's good. Corporations is 6%, but it can fall into the foundations category as well at 15%, because a lot of corporations have foundations. So they give in a variety of ways. They can give products and services. They can sponsor an event or conference. They can give money to organizations in their particular region or community through direct corporate giving programs, which comes out of a regional budget that they might have for public affairs or community relations. And they can also give through their foundation. So they're kind of captured in both of those categories. So the main thing we want to say here is that you want to make sure that you're not just focusing on foundations to support your nonprofits, and that you're thinking about diversifying your funding streams, as we talk about a lot here, which just means looking at a variety of sources.
Kim, we just lost you. I can't hear you.
We call them grant makers and not foundations, because it can include a variety of grant makers. So direct corporate giving programs are what we were just talking about, and that comes from the corporate side of things. They're direct from their profits. That's why we call it direct corporate giving. It's also classified as corporate social responsibility, or CSR. So a lot of times when you're doing research on corporations, you have to look at their corporate social responsibility programs on their websites, because they don't have to fill out 990s unless they're a foundation, corporate foundation. And so a lot of times you have to do research with the direct corporate giving programs through their websites. Private foundations are the largest category of grant makers, of course, and they are defined as a non-governmental, nonprofit organization that has its own funds or endowment. Even if it's a corporate foundation, it has its separate funds or endowments, and it's managed by its own trustees or directors to fund charitable organizations for charitable purposes. And there's also another kind called grant-making public charities, and that's really the difference between the two is the independent, sometimes we call them family foundations, but private foundations, the money typically comes from a family or a group of individuals. So they don't raise money like you and I do, so it means that the Ford Foundation or the Gates Foundation or the Kellogg Foundation, that it came from, the foundation was set up by the Ford family or the Kellogg family or the Gates family. So it's a private foundation in that way. Grant-making public charities raise money just like you and I do from various sources, other foundations, corporations, and individuals, and they re-grant that money to organizations in specific regions or communities. So community foundations are the most well-known type of public charities, and so every community just about has a foundation. So, and it's usually the Baltimore Community Foundation or the Colorado Community Foundation. It has the name of the community that they're serving in their name. Population or issue-oriented funds are like the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's disease. It's focusing on a specific issue. Or population is like the Global Fund for Children or Women. It focuses on a specific population. Company-sponsored public charities like the Avon, Walk for the Cure, or the Susan G. Komen Foundation, where they are raising money in a public way to re-grant money to organizations that deal with a specific subject or population group. So you can get all different types and varieties and kinds of foundations, both big and small. Most of the money that supports nonprofit is from foundations or from small family foundations or people that care about your particular community. A lot of them, the national ones that you can think of, Ford and Kellogg and Gates, they really want a more national focus or even an international focus. So it's best to kind of look within your own community for the ones that would care most about what it is that you're doing and the people that you're helping in those communities. So finding funders, that's a big part of what we do here at the Foundation Center, is help people to find funders who are interested in what you have to offer. Number one reasons why proposals aren't funded? Is it because it was just not the right fit or right match for what the funder is looking for? So you have to really take time to match your interest up with the funder's interest. So our database foundation directory online helps you to identify why you need funding and what kind do you need. So what type do you need is one thing that we talk about a lot here. So you can find funding that's going to support conferences, for example. And you can do a research to find out what foundations would be interested in that. You can also look it up by your particular subject area or topic, as well as your geographic focus. So you need to have also in mind how much money do you need when you're looking up funders. So for example, you know, is it a $5,000 project or a $20,000 project? So that will help you to know how many funders you need to have on your list when you're doing your research to be effective. The rule of thumb is that you need about 1 out of 3 funders will say yes, the other 2 will say no. That's just the law of averages. So you have to make sure that you have at least 3 times as much funding or asks, requests out there as you need money. So if you need $10,000, you need $30,000 at least, maybe 50, but at least 30 to get that $10,000, because not everybody's going to say yes. So you have to make sure that you have enough people on your prospect list to be able to get you the amount of money that you need. When do you need the funding by? You should at least give yourself 6 to 9 months at the minimum to do the research you need and to be able to write an effective proposal, submit it to the funder, and then they have to go through their process as well, which could take them 3 to 6 months. So it could really take you about 6 to 9 months from start to finish of this process. Most effective fundraisers give themselves about a year, because it's going to take about a year to be able to do all of this. So most really good fundraisers start raising money this year for projects and programs and services that they're providing in the following year. So just make sure that you give yourself enough time. So these are the various areas that you can look for the match in your area of interest, your geographic region, and the type of support that you need. You also need to find out, has the grant maker funded organizations like yours, and how much does the grant maker give to organizations like yours. So that'll give you an idea of how interested they are and also how much you should ask for. So in doing that research, you sort of look for a pattern of giving. So their range for organizations your size and scope might be, you know, $10,000 to $30,000, but their range in all might be $1 million to $1,000. So you have to figure out where you fit in terms of the pattern of giving for organizations of your size and scope. We'll talk a little bit about the application process. When we do our research, I will show you where you can identify what they want their initial contact to be. That's a good thing to know, because not all of them want the full proposal out at first. A lot of them would want a letter of inquiry, letter of intent, or LOI. It's just a mini version, 2-page mini version of your proposal. Sometimes they give you 3. But it's in a letter format, and it's usually limited to 2 or 3 pages. So a lot of them want that initially. But before you make any initial contact, you should have your full proposal already written, just so you can think through all the things we talked about earlier. Who are you serving? You know, what's your need? What are you trying to do? What's your methodology and approach? Why should this particular funder care? What are your outcomes going to be? So how many people are you serving? And you know, how are you going to impact lives? So being able to show proof that what you're doing is meaningful and effective. So having thought through all of that stuff ahead of time is really important before you pick up the phone or submit anything to a funder. verbal response that says, sure, I'd like you to submit the full proposal, you do that right away and not have to, wait a couple of months for you to get all of that together. So given these choices, sometimes they give you a variety of choices, and so given these choices, I like to start with the most personal approach if I can, which would be the telephone call. So I always try to make a call once I've done my research and I know who I'm talking to and why, just because all fundraising is about building relationships, and so, I want to be able to talk to somebody if I can. A lot of times before you submit something in writing, it's hard to get a meeting with a funder. A lot of people want that, but it's hard to get because everybody would want to get a meeting with a funder, and there's not enough time in their day to be able to meet with everybody who wants to meet and talk with them. So when you give them something in writing, it gives them something to read and focus on and get a better understanding of who you are before they actually meet and talk with you. With telephone calls, a lot of times they are more open to talking to you on the phone because they don't want you to have to go through all of this without, knowing if they're even interested. And so it's good to pick up the phone if you can, but it's hard to get people on the phone, as you well know. But with that, you want to have some talking points right in front of you. You want to know why you're calling this particular funder. You don't want to take up too much of their time, and just get an initial reaction to what it is that you're going to be submitting to see if it's a good fit or a good match. I often tell people, be well prepared when you're making these telephone calls because you have a very short window of time, and you don't want to ask them questions that you can find out elsewhere. So do your research, look at their annual reports, their websites, have your ideas, and plan well thought out before you pick up the phone. A lot of them want, when you get to the proposal phase of things, sometimes they have their own application form, and sometimes they have what they call a common grant application form. So that's where, funders in a particular region will take the same application form. It's called the Common Application Form, and the regional associations of grant makers have that available on their website. So all you have to do is Google the Regional Association of Grant Makers in your area, and when you go to their homepage, they'll usually have a downloadable version of the Common Grant application. But you can find all of this out when you're doing your research. It's all in our database. And if they do use that form, or if they have their own application form, they usually have a link to it from our database. And also you want to definitely pay attention to deadlines. Getting the proposals in on time are critical. So I'm going to go to Foundation Directory Online, but we have a couple of websites that I want you to take a look at as well. We have grantspace.org and also foundationcenter.org. They are both our websites. Grantspace is a little bit more user-friendly because of the way it's organized, so I would start there if I were you. All right, so I am going to just switch over to our database so that I can demo it for you. So we are here, and there are 5 different levels. The top level is the professional level. It costs about $180 a month, or about $1,300 a year, but you can use them for free in any of our regional locations or any of our Funding Information Network affiliates, which are usually libraries and universities in your area, where you can use the database for free. So I will show you how to find out where to use them for free in a minute. But the first way to get started is to just click on Search Grant Makers and go to these 3 areas that we talked about earlier. So your field of interest, your type of support, and your geographic focus. That's all you really need to do in order to do your research. So under the field of interest, there's a View Index field where you can look up the various types of issues that are listed here. And I did a couple of quick searches in advance, and so one of the top areas I think would be for you guys would be public health. So if we click on public health, you see there are a lot of different subject areas in here, and so you can just kind of browse through it to see which one suits your particular organization or interest. So we are going to go to public health. So there are a lot of different types of public health here that you see. So you can just click on the top one and it will cover all of the areas underneath that. And so there are about 395 funders that focus specifically on public health. And you'll see that when I click on that, it'll put it in the field for you. Also, I looked under reproductive health, so I'm just going to go back to the top of my screen and click on that and go to reproductive health here. So we can click on that too. So reproductive health, we could either do that in general, or we can also look at, we have prenatal care here as well, so you could do that too. But reproductive health would cover all of those that are listed there. And then there was one other, family services I saw was in there. So if I click on that, I can go to family services, and so you see there's a lot of things under family services, but we're just going to click on that one. So you can see that you can put several different subject matters in there at a time, and it will connect it by the word or. You can change or to and if you want the terms to be connected, like women and reproductive health. You could change the or to an and by just putting your cursor over it and typing and there, and it does have to be capitalized. Under type of support, there are various types of support that you can find in here, and we have conferences and seminars, so you could put that there. Most funders give broadly to what's called program development, so it's for a specific program or project, and it can include seminars, it can include teaching, and things like that. So you can program development as a broad category that you could also put in there. And then your geographic focus is where your project is going to take place. So any particular city or state that you want to click on, you can do that. You can put multiple states in there as well. And if it's a national focus, you can put national, or national and international if you're doing an international project. But definitely national would cover all 50 states. So once you do that, you can just click on search, and it will bring up a list of funders who are interested in what it is that you have to offer. And so the list is quite comprehensive. We got 75 funders who are interested in what it is that you have to offer. So if I click on one, I'm going to click on the Kate Fritz Foundation. It will bring up what we call a record, and it will give you all the information you need to apply to this particular funder, including their address, the contact person, their email, their website, which I would also take a look at their website as well, because a lot of times they'll have extensive information on there about who they give grants to, what they're most interested in, and very specific things that you would want to know. You can go to, if we scroll down, you can see their specific purposes and activities and program areas. You can also see the broad field of interest that they give to. This is where we see ours highlighted in yellow, and also their geographic focus, what types of support that they give, and finally their application information. So here's what you can find, what they want in an application. So here you see that they accept the Common Grant application format. They typically don't like things submitted by fax or email. And then this tells you what they want also included with your application. And as you can see here, they say what they want their initial approach to be. So this one is one where they say telephone, email, or full proposal. So given a choice, I'm going to pick the most personable one, which would be telephone. And my least favorite would be email, because that's so impersonal, and it's hard to write something in an email that someone would want to open if they don't know anything about you, and I definitely don't want to submit a full proposal if I'm not sure that they're interested. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about the initial approach. And you also want to pay attention to deadlines, which you can see here. If you scroll down, you can also see who's on their board. So sometimes that's a good way to get a meeting with a funder is through one of their board members. So I always circulate this list of people to my key stakeholders, which would be my major donors, my staff, my board, even my volunteers, to see if they know anybody on those boards. They also give you what their other affiliations are. So maybe I don't know Earl Powell, but I may sit on the Commission of Fine Arts, which would connect me to Earl Powell. So doing your research should also include things like that. Also, when you're making a call, you know, at the top here, if I go back up to the top, the contact person is Roseanne Cleveland, who's the executive director of one of the largest foundations in Washington, D.C., so your chances of you talking to her are very slim. But we put that there because that is who you're going to address your letter or your proposal to, and it will get to the right person. But what you want to do is look at their staff list. And sometimes, if it's a big foundation, they'll have a program officer for human services, for example, and so that's the person you would call. But if they don't, because many foundations aren't that big, and they don't have staff dedicated to each subject area that they give to, you're just going to call, you know, one of the program officers. And when you make that call, you know, you identify yourself and your organization, say because of your interest in women's health and reproductive issues, we wanted to talk to you about, you know, a conference that we're hosting, and we wanted to just get your initial reaction to it if it's something you would be interested in funding. Are you the right person, and is this the right time? So if it's not Michael Bigley, he'll say, well, actually, Mardell Moffett is the person you need to talk to. So you would then, you know, have a name of a person. I think you just get to the right person easier if you have a name to begin with. So this is how you get those names. Anything else I want to show you? So up at the top, there are a lot of different tabs up at the top. So you can map grants, which just shows you where the money is going geographically. So a lot of foundations give to a lot of different areas, and so you can see that most of this foundation's money is going to D.C., Maryland, and Virginia because they're located here. So typically funders will give where they're located, but they also give to other places as well. So you want to look at that. You can also chart grants because a lot of them do give to various organizations. So this is how you can see how much they're giving to your particular subject matter or issue. So let's say that we're looking at human services. If we click on that, we can see how many grants they're giving in this area because you can see they're not all weighted equally, so that's a good thing to know. So if we click on human services, we can then see who's all getting the money, and so where would you fall in terms of where the money is going. So perhaps it would be human services, personal services. I don't give much in there, but multi-purpose centers, family services, let's look at that. So if we click on family services, we can see how many grants are going to family services, and then here you can see what they mean by family services. So get an idea of that, and then we click on family services in general. You can see who's specifically getting that money. So if we wanted to click on Family Place, for example, or Family Services, let's just click on that. That sounds like that's the name of an organization here in Maryland. We can click on that and find out, how much money they've received and what the grants were for. So it gives us a little description about what it was for. So it's for Healthy Families Montgomery and Early Head Start programs. And what I also like about this gives you here under subjects, other subjects that you can search on because maybe you don't know what specific subject areas you would fall under. So we looked up family services, but you could also do child development, for example. So this, or economically disadvantaged. So this gives you, a broad, or education even. So it gives you a broad scope of what other subject matters you could do searches in. So that is about it. I hope that you have found that helpful. I am going to just click on GrantSpace, so that I gave you that website earlier. So I'm going to click on here just to show you a few things. So here, find us. We have over 470 locations, and you can type in your zip code here and press go. It's right on the front page of grantspace.org, and it will show you where there is a Funding Information Network affiliate that's close to you in your backyard, where you can find one where you can go use that glorious database that I just showed you. So the closest here would be Howard County Library, and it'll show you their hours of operation and their address and their contact information, so you can just go there anytime they're open and ask to use the Foundation Center database or the Foundation Center resources. They'll know exactly what you mean, so that's fine. You can search by your subject area, so if you want to know all the resources we have related to health, you can click on that, and it'll give you a variety of interviews and podcasts and books and classes and all that good stuff to on related to health. And so requests for proposals are when funders put out a specific request for proposals. A lot of foundations don't do that. The government has to do that. So that's a term that's usually related to government grants. But sometimes when they have a specific initiative, they will put out a request for proposals. So here's a place where you can look for that. You can also look for jobs and something, this is a good, you can't see it here, but it's a good podcast that we did about health and human services funding and the new normal. So a panel of grant makers from institutions that support health and human services organizations share best practices in working with foundations during challenging economic times. So that might be a good thing to keep in touch with. Also, the funders' tweets, it's a lot good to follow funders' tweets and follow them on social media, because it'll tell you the things that they're talking about or are most interested in as it relates to your subject area. And then you can also see sample proposals, for example, based on, women's health issues, so that you can find them here. There are also sometimes we put together digital grant documents. They're all based on Foundation Directory Online, but sometimes we put it together by the subject area, and you can download those and just purchase that particular thing versus the whole database. You could just focus on your particular subject area, and as you can see, it's a lot cheaper. One more thing, skills. So if you wanted to look up, for example, let me click on Finding Funders first. So if you want to learn more about how to use the database, because it's quite extensive, you can use it learn how to use it for free here under Skills and Finding Funders. There's a webinar that's about an hour about Introduction to Finding Funders, so it'll take you through how to use the database. And that's it for that. Also, developing proposals here will show you how you can learn how to write proposals. We show you some books that we have available. You can get that at those Funding Information Network affiliates too, so when you put your zip code in there and find out where you can use the database, they also have a core collection of the books that we publish. And what else? We can also show you, we have free webinars on it, recorded webinars, fee-based classes, so you can find out all about the classes that we offer here. Many of them are free, so you can just click on here if you want like online classes on proposal writing and budgeting. And then here are just all of our sample documents related to proposal writing. So we could go to more, and it will give you sample letters of inquiry. Remember, we talked about the 2-page mini versions of your proposals, sample proposals, sample budgets, and sample cover letters. So it's a great resource to take a look at. Under Classroom, if you look at the course list, we have lots of different subject areas related to fundraising and nonprofit management. Many of these come in a variety of formats: self-paced learning, recorded webinars, live webinars, or in-person in the classroom. So it'll list here, and you can just click on it, and it'll show you, the various times and dates that it's next being offered in a variety of different formats. What else? Tools. So knowledge base is good. So if you click on knowledge base, it has a lot of like frequently asked questions, like how do I write a grant proposal, where can I find information on corporate giving, how do I start a nonprofit, how do I learn about researching and cultivating individual donors. So these are our top 15 most frequently asked questions. Or you can type something in here, and it'll bring up the resources we have related to that particular subject area. And if you have any pressing questions, you can do our Chat Now button here. When that green light is on, you can chat with a live librarian who can answer your questions right away. And when it's late at night and you have a pressing question on your mind and that green light isn't open, you can just do the Ask Us, and that's an email version of it, and they get in touch with you within 24 hours. So lots of resources you can find at grantspace.org. And that ends my presentation. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really utilize all of the resources we have available to you, especially the free ones, because those are my favorite ones. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kim, for that fantastic presentation. And I know that our coalition members have been lucky to have you do training in person as well. So we've been doubly lucky to have you, and just such a wealth of resources through both GrantSpace and through the Foundation Center. So I'm sure they will be joining up your mailing list very soon. And we do have a lot of questions. And as I just transition to changing the presenter, could you, like one question that's been asked quite a few times is for a lot of our coalitions, they are just kind of transitioning into the 501c3 status. They've either been under a fiscal sponsor or some other mode of housed in the county health department, or so they are growing up and becoming independent, and some of them have had a grant with one small foundation. Most of them are asking about could you give us any tips on building a successful grantee-funder relationship, even as a second-time proposal writer, or even before, if you've identified a few, but you might be thinking of applying in the future. What are some ways that you can make those initial contacts and build some connections with the program officers?
That's a really good question. I get that I asked a lot myself. So a couple of things that you can do. One, I would find out, like, if there's a particular funder that I'm interested in approaching, find out who in your community that they've funded. So who are some of their grantees? Maybe no one in your particular subject area, but somebody that maybe you could partner and collaborate with, or do a joint program with, because that way they'll get to know you as an individual or your own organization through that. And also, funders would much rather fund organizations that are collaborating and partnering in a really meaningful, impactful way than to fund, 5 organizations that are doing similar things. So collaborations and partnerships is a good way to do it as well. You also want to stay visible. So, a good way to do that is to go to annual conferences and meetings related to your particular subject area. because you get exposure that way as an individual and as an organization. It's also good to sit on panels and speak, at these events, because a lot of times funders are at these events. You just don't know it. A lot of times they are there. I definitely go to meetings where I know they're going to be funders in my particular region. So uh, your community foundations, your regional association of grant makers, go to their websites. Sometimes they have meetings and convenings that grantees or potential grantees can come to, as well as grant makers. So be at those kind of events so that you can be seen and noticed. Also, your personal background and story can be very valuable to funders. So, when you're approaching them and you feel like you don't have a track record or history of success, you do as an individual, though, because your passion, your commitment, your personal story a lot of times can be more important than your organizational history and background. So, for example, if I'm trying to mentor teen girls, if I had trouble adjusting to middle school, or I was bullied as a kid and now I'm all grown up and I've navigated those waters, to me that would make more sense to me than if you had a PhD in education. It's just your personal experience, so don't underestimate that. And then I would also say start where you are. So wherever you are, if you're working with 2 women or 200 women, you really want to get testimonies and um, prove that what you're doing is making a difference. So you're documenting your success and building upon your successes.
Great, terrific strategies, Kim. Thank you so much. We do have a few more questions, and one is a lot of our coalitions really look to city, state, education development grants, more kind of government grants. And so what are some good ways of, checking on availability of grants which are city, state?
Good way to check for government grants is at grants with an s.gov, grants.gov. And that's how you can find out more about government grants and things like that. I must say that their approach is a lot different than private foundations. Their applications are usually much, more detailed, very long, very strenuous, but that's okay. You're dealing with public money. And so, they have to be more accountable in that way. So that's really the best source for that.
Okay, and one other question is for someone to learn, they're just kind of getting into the grant writing business, and where can they learn more about the common grant application? And so they would be more primed to be able to approach funders.
Yes. I'm going to pull something else up for you real quick. Thanks for asking that. I'm at foundationcenter.org, which is also one of our websites. I'm going to pull that up real quick. This is our, original website, and then people were like, oh, but it's so hard to find things on here, so we just made it a little more user-friendly with GrantSpace. So as you can see, it's a little easier to find things on GrantSpace, but it pulls a lot of the information from here. But this is the easiest way to find the common grant application. A lot of times when I showed you the record or the information about what the funders were looking for, their guidelines and things like that, if they take the common grant application, they'll often have a link to it from their page or from their website. But you can also find it here at foundationcenter.org under Find Funders, Related Tools, Common Grant Applications. So if I click on that, and it's good to just look at them because a lot of times, and they have one for almost every geographic region. So you can see, depending on where you're from, you can click on the one that relates to your specific state. But I'm going to click on the Washington Regional Associations of Grant Makers, and you can see that you can just click on the common grant application from here. So if I click on that, you can see how it looks, how it's laid out. Many of them look
about the same way. The thing that I like about the common grant applications, because a lot of the questions that they ask here are the same kind of questions that most funders will ask. So it's good to kind of look over these to see what kind of things they're looking for. They all also have a really good section on budgets, like what's to be included in a budget. If you're describing a particular project, what kinds of things are they looking for, answers to, what kind of attachments would they want. So it's good to kind of look through this. But the good thing about the common grant application is you can literally answer it like it's an application. It doesn't have to be in a narrative format, and you can submit it to as many people as accepted. So you could have the application date, for example, just put the date, organization name and contact information. So, all that stuff, you can just literally put number 1, number 2, number 3, and just answer it just like that. So it's kind of nice, and it's a shame that not all of them accepted. It would make our jobs a whole lot easier, I'm sure.
Thank you, Kim. And we have another question, and this is something that breastfeeding coalitions do a lot of. And can you share ideas for goods and services appropriate for the industry? And often breastfeeding coalitions, the kind of earned income item that they do is they host a conference, they host a lot of teaching sessions for the professional field. So they are the ones that do summits and conferences, and sometimes those are the ones that really, through the registration fees, that's where they get their money. Some have other items like toolkits and things that they have been able to do, but this is a great question to float on our listserv as well, so we can get some feedback from other coalitions about what they really do, what are some of the services that are helpful to them to get some earned income, what kind of products.
Yeah, so you're saying that you're going to put that out to your listserv to see what kind of things they do?
Yes, I think this is generating a lot of questions about what could be some sources for earned income. So we just want to continue this conversation with our coalitions and see how we can support them with the resources that you mentioned, and also some other ways in which they can collaborate with each other about products and services.
Cool. Let me show you something real quick. You can either do it, here, the best way to do it is search on here on grantspace.org, and if I put in earned income in there, you can put in any subject you want, but earned income, if we click on that, we have a whole, discussion board about earned income. So what it is, some good examples that you can go to. So if I click on that, it will tell you what is earned income and how do I learn more about it. So it talks about the importance of that, what's so good about that. We have links to things like the Society for Nonprofit Organizations fundraising guide to earned income. So looking at things like that. We even have an earned income assessment tool to see, if you're ready for an earned income stream. And then we have, lots of conversations and discussions on what it is, how to think through earned income for your own nonprofits. So it's a lot of good resources that you can use on here as well.
Great. And one last question, Kim, because I know we are running out. Do funders give grants to nonprofit organizations only, or do they also give to individuals?
They typically give to nonprofit organizations only. Some will focus on grants to individuals. The database that I showed you was just for nonprofit organizations. We do also have one called Grants to Individuals online, which talks about, how they'll give. So, they usually give to artists and things like that, writers, filmmakers, for specific projects like a documentary, like an exhibition, things like that. But they also give for studying abroad, research, going back to school, so scholarships for graduate and undergraduate schools. But typically they don't give money to individuals unless it's connected to a specific goal or outcome.
Okay, great. I will collect all the resources that I can from Kim and from USBC. We'll be sending you an announcement very soon. We will be getting you access and resources for a lot of things that we will be paying for and hoping to have our coalitions access them for free. So stay tuned for an email announcement, exciting email announcement very soon. And also that brings us to the end of today's session. Apologies for the technical glitch, but we will splice it so that you can get the whole recording without the long interval. And thanks for all you do to improve the health of women, children, and families. So goodbye for now, and I look forward to having you all for our next webinar session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.